Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Melissa Rebronja. I am an integrative healing practitioner and host at HEALYOURHEART.LOVE. And today's guest is Ava Park. Welcome, Ava.
I am so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, so lovely to have you. Ava Park is a teacher, speaker, and activist in women's spirituality and empowerment. She is the founder and director of the Museum of Women, nourishing women's primal power to guide life to goodness. How beautiful is that? She is also the author of the Queen Teachings for Women, the definitive online course on the Queen Archetype in women. And you were also one of the wise women presenters at the Sacred Body event, which was facilitated by myself and Melanie Hudson almost 3 years ago now. And you spoke about the influence of patriarchy on the female. Thank you, Ava, for that wonderful presentation. And that is also available on this Sacred Women playlist on my YouTube channel. So you can see that presentation.
That was wonderful work. Wonderful work you did. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So you have a program, a course called Queen Teachings, which I did purchase right after the summit. And it took me a couple years to start it. And it was actually Melanie and I that got together and decided to do it as a team, like a group work thing, where we met 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we would do a chapter, do the exercises, and it was a wonderful journey. So just wanted to thank you. So I've actually done the Queen Teachings.
That's a wonderful way to do it with
Yes.
a close woman friend. You keep each other on track and a little bit accountable, and meeting every couple of weeks is a great time frame. And I think you were brilliant in creating it that way for yourself.
Thank you. What inspired you to write the Queen Teachings, Ava?
I remember when I was about 12, I remember one of the Beatles were very big when I was young, and they came out with a song in, I think, 1967, and I was about 12. And I remember the title, we all know this song, Love Is All You Need. And I worshiped the Beatles. Everything they said was absolutely true until this, because my family had a lot of love. My parents were very loving, both of them. And yet our family was still chaotic and unhappy. You know, some families fight and other families suppress, and ours was a suppressing family. But I could feel that things were not happy and relaxed. And I heard this song, I thought, well, that's just wrong. Can't be right. We have love in this family. That is obviously not all you need. It was clear to me. So then I just spent the next 30 years trying to figure out what that other something was. And I finally, after tremendous research and study and reading, I finally realized that it was the missing queen archetype in woman all over the world, not just American women, but women all over the world.
What a wonderful discovery of the queen. And I recently interviewed Dr. Alka Arora, who is faculty at the CIIS for Women's Spirituality. And even her shared the 3 archetypes. It was just maiden, mother, and crone. And I was tempted to say, what about the queen? But we didn't do this interview yet. So I'm so happy that we're talking about this. It's much needed and important. And how did you realize that the archetype was missing?
Well, I too,
traditional model.
I had been always very spiritually inclined since I was a little kid. And I had studied theosophy and metaphysics through my 20s and 30s. And then I met a wonderful woman in my middle 30s who got me interested in goddess spirituality, which is sometimes called women's spirituality. And as you know, it's an earth-based, woman-honoring, matriarchal form of spirituality. So I took a 6-year class equivalent to a master's degree in women's spirituality. And in that 6 years of training, I too was taught that there were three basic archetypes of woman: maiden, mother, and crone.
That's
And I was,
depressing. It's like, really? Come on.
well, for one thing, do we really go from mother to crone? Do
No,
we?
no.
Because I think we don't. And
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago, I was at a women's ceremony, a croning, and the woman was 56, because in women's spirituality, in goddess spirituality, 56 is the time you go to crone.
I hope not. That's like 6 years away from me. I'm not ready for that.
You know, when you think about human existence, this might have made sense 1,000 years ago when women didn't really live past 50. If you made it to 56, you had a high chance of dying in childbirth. And if you ended your childbearing years at around 45 or so, typical perimenopause, then maybe becoming a crone at 56 would make sense. But women today, in modern times, average lifespan is 84, and many women live much longer than that, into their 90s. I have several friends who are in their 90s now. And so, does it make sense for a woman to go from her mother years all of a sudden to crone? It makes no sense. There's this whole period of time where she is still vibrant, full of energy, full of, was it Margaret Mead who called it menopausal zest? And
Yeah.
she's powerful. This is the whole period, a 20-year period from 45 to 65, where a woman has completed, if she had children, she's completed her childbearing and child rearing, and she's not an old woman. She's not a crone. She is the queen. And
Absolutely.
I firmly believe that this missing archetype in woman, even in goddess spirituality, which I respect immensely, to delete the archetype of the queen, the years, it's both a phase of life and also a set of powers that lives within you. So if you go from mother to crone, you completely miss these mature years where a woman has learned so much and she's still vital and strong. These are the natural years of woman's leadership, of her leading her community, of her leading her civilization. This is the time, 45 to 65, when she is supposed to be the matriarch guiding us all to goodness. She's not yet the wise woman. Of course, we all have all four within us at all times. Even the 5-year-old has a wise woman crone, because it's a set of powers, it's an archetype. And but it's also a phase of life. So we cannot miss the queen. She is the most demonized, dismissed, and denied archetype of woman, because in a patriarchy, you cannot have the queen around. So that's why all the patriarchal fairy tales make the queen evil. And the evil stepmother is a version of the queen. You think about all the fairy tales. The queen is the one who poisons you. And starting my work many years ago, I went to one of the largest malls in the world, the South Coast Plaza Mall, and I took my clipboard and I stood there for, I think it was about 3 hours, and I asked most people passing by, tell me what the queen is. And it was all horrible things. She,
Wow.
the bitch, the diva, the ice queen, she who must be obeyed. She's cold, she's cruel, she's calculating. She's the one who overpowers you. She's the one who poisons you. The queen gives you the poison apple in Snow White. If you want to have a system that oppresses women, the first thing you must do is eliminate the set of powers that the queen holds in her. So I realized that the queen archetype was missing. And I will credit here a wonderful woman, Donna Hennis, author and teacher, for making me aware of this queen archetype. with her book, Queen of Myself. Now,
Hmm.
I came to some very different conclusions than she came to, but I give her credit for the Queen archetype being the first book that I read that focused on the Queen archetype. And after more study, I created the class on the 4 powers of woman: maiden, mother, queen, and wise woman, crone. And that's because crone is a hard word. It's a pejorative in our culture, and we're reclaiming it. I ease that pejorative by calling it the wise woman crone. And in the 4 powers of woman, we talk about how all of these powers, these sets of powers, live within each woman, no matter her age. Each one, the maiden, the mother, the queen, the wise woman, each has a set of powers. And if we realize those powers, if we know how to access those powers, if we know how to allow each of them to come forward at the right moment in our lives are so much better. And I urge your listeners not to get caught up in the idea of it being a phase of life. I'm in my queen phase, so now I have to be like a queen all the time, or I'm in my wise woman phase. So no, these are primarily a set of powers, and you should be able to access all of them. And you might access all of them in a single day.
Mm-hmm.
Often.
Mm-hmm.
Your maiden, she has a set of powers. You might be in your maiden. Your mother, you might be mothering. Look, I'm mothering right here with my
Right. Yeah.
evil genius cat, Davy. He came up here and he just wants a little cuddling. So that's what we're doing. Then your queen might be the decision maker, the leader who says, okay, here's what we're doing here. Then your wise woman might be, say, your husband came home and found out that his mother had died. You might want to hold silence like a wise woman and just be with him silently. So once you understand each of these powers, then you can just bring them forth moment by moment very naturally and really be fully embodied in all the female powers. And most American women are really missing their knowledge of their queen. I don't think they're missing their queen. I think the queen in them is locked up in a dungeon because they were told when they were very young, they were given the message, both overtly and subtly, that they should not be queen. They should be the mother, the warm, caring, giving, working woman. That's how you're going to get people to approve of you.
Mm-hmm.
People don't necessarily like the queen because she's, as you know, impersonal, where the mother
Yeah.
warm and personal. But sometimes it's like the nurse at the hospital. So you're at the hospital and your nurse comes in and she's wonderful and she's warm and she's caring and she brings you a blanket and she takes care of you and she feeds you and you just love her. Well, now you see the hospital administrator coming and nobody wants to see her. And so the nurse is like the mother caring for you, and the hospital administrator, who does all the administration work of keeping the whole system running, nobody really likes her. Nobody is all warm and fuzzy about
Mm-hmm.
her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but we need her. The hospital would not run without the hospital administrator. So nobody's going to get all excited for you to go into your queen and lead and hold boundaries and have clarity on what's really happening and say, okay, that's not what we're doing here. And all the other things that the queen does. Nobody really wants to see that coming. And yet that is the thing that keeps families safe, low drama, and on track for happiness. So most women in America have their queen in the dungeon. And my work, what I care most about is helping women see their queen down there in the dungeon and then help gently to bring her up into the light of day. Most women have an imbalance of the mother archetype, the giver, the worker, and not enough of the queen, who's the leader and the receiver. And most importantly, the one who holds boundaries. That's the biggest problem women have in American culture is they don't hold boundaries. And that's your queen archetype.
Yeah. And what I love about your teachings, it's so deep and comprehensive, and there's all these exercises. I always had this fantasy of going to finishing school. And that was sort of, it felt, parts of it felt like that, because it also covers beauty and makeup. And I really loved it. It had so much, and you share personal stories, and it's such a good program for women.
Well, my own story on the Queen is my mother, and this is very a classic in American culture. My mother was a very good mother, but she had almost no expressed queen. And so she let my dad, who was not a bad man, he was not cruel, not mean, he was inadvertently selfish, and she never held any boundaries on him. He dragged us all over hell and gone on his adventures, and so we never really had a solid, proper home that we lived in for a period of time, and children need stability. And then instead of contributing to our college fund, he would like go buy a 90-foot boat, one day and just say, I bought a boat, Ethel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And this is because my mother had no queen to hold a vision for the family. She mistakenly thought, and most women do, that the man is supposed to hold the vision for the family. And that's not so. That is the woman's job and her queen. And then when he would go off the rails, she would just say, well, okay, this is what my husband is doing. And she would just follow along until she couldn't one day, and then it all fell apart. That's what most women are doing in America. They have very little, and indeed all over the world, they are completely overworked. Their imbalanced mother aspect, which is the overgiving mother, they are giving way too much, and they need the queen boundaries to give them clarity. That's one of the powers of the queen, clarity on when to stop giving and then how to do that. Because what happens with most women, they give and they give and they give and they give, to their families, and often they're working at the same time outside the home. And all of a sudden, like around 45 or 50, they just become so angry and so resentful. And sometimes they just get really sick as their way of bailing out of all those duties, because they had no queen those past 20 years to give them boundaries, to let them receive the harvest of their work. And so that's what happens around 45 or 50. If you have no queen, you'll be really pissed off and you won't know why. And you'll be angry with men and you really won't know why. And they'll be confused. It's like the queen is the one who keeps us from entering the queen year. And it's interesting that right about the time you're entering the phase of life that is the queen, that's about the time the mother completely burns out and gives up and just falls down. She can't do it anymore.
Makes sense. What I like is that you suggest 45 to 65, but it's also just a guide. Because I know for me, I waited until I turned 50 to begin embracing the queen archetype. Also, it doesn't have to end at 65. You can keep going. We feel when we're ready to maybe enter the wise woman archetype. It just kind of happens naturally.
I believe that's true. And I believe the edges are just a guideline and they're very malleable for each woman. I am an example of that. I'm 68 now. When I turned 65, I could have had a croning, but I wasn't feeling it. I was still feeling very much in my queen years. And I just didn't feel like the wise woman self. Women of our circle said, shall we have a croning ceremony for you? You're 65 now. And I said, you know what? Not yet. And I had this idea that it would be probably sometime before I was 70. And I think this is the year that I stopped coloring my hair and I let it go to its natural color. I used to color it light brown. And all of a sudden, I just started feeling the wise woman energy. And so perhaps I'll have a croning sometime soon. Earlier, I was mentioning I had gone to a woman's croning at 56.
Yes.
And the point I wanted to make about that is that she was so unhappy. She was given all of these accolades as being the wise old woman, and she was very youthful and very, very much a queen. and very strong, and she was dressed beautifully. And the whole theme was old woman, old woman, old woman. And you could see how it did not resonate for her. She was very displeased for the entire evening with an event that was made to honor her. So if you do not feel like a wise woman, don't go there. I have a friend 80 who says, I'll get to wise woman when I feel like it. And I'm like,
I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's really about us and our journey and how we feel.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I love that. I loved learning about the queen being responsible for her own realm and host queen versus visiting queen. Can you share a little bit about that?
Certainly. Every woman is queen of her realm. Your realm is what you are 100% responsible for. And there is a coffee mug that's popular that I absolutely detest. And it has a crown on it, and it says, Queen of Everything. No, you are never queen of everything. That shows that you have no boundaries. No one is queen of everything. You are queen of what you are 100% responsible for. And you are not responsible for everything, are you?
No.
I was counseling a young woman and asking her what she thought she was queen of. And she had read some of my material, but she was very young, and maybe she hadn't paid attention, because she said, well, I'm queen of my friends. And I think what she meant was she was leader of her group. But no, you are never queen of your friends, unless maybe you're talking about your animals. Your friends are adult women, and they are queen of themselves and their own realm. When you come together, you are queens together, and there's a way to be that respectfully and in a healthy way, but you're not queen of them. Even if you might be the most vocal one, or the one who comes up with a lot of the ideas, or don't think you're queen of your friends ever. And many women don't have clear boundaries for themselves, so they get involved in all kinds of things that bring their life more unnecessary, exhausting drama. If you are in your own realm, you are responsible for that realm. And every woman has several realms. Your first realm is your own body. That's why no man should be able legitimately to make laws about abortion, because you are responsible. You are queen of your own realm. If you have someone else making decisions for you and your body, that's just called slavery. That's what that is. You are absolutely responsible for your body and what happens with your body. Your second realm is your home. And this is where a lot of women get quite confused. You are queen of your home, even when you share it with a husband or a partner or a man. You are still 100% responsible for that. And many women will say, oh no, my husband and I share everything equally. Well, here is an example of how there has to be a final decision maker. I was counseling a young woman not too long ago, and she had just had a baby, and she wanted to feed her baby in a very specific way, and her husband wanted the opposite way. Her husband wanted the baby to be vegan, and she wanted the baby to be vegetarian, possibly a little meat later on, but they had a wide divergence. So who's responsible for making the decision? There's no compromise. Your baby's either vegetarian or vegan. You can't be both. Do you know what I mean? There's an old Chinese saying that there can only be one queen under one roof. You can't have an equal partner. Now, if you are dealing with a very, very aware man who honors woman and is not oppressive, is not trying to control you, then most things it can feel pretty equal. But in the end, there has to be one person who decides what happens in this realm. There can only be one queen of a realm. Another realm might be if you have a company that you're CEO of, or a business that you started with your own blood, sweat, and tears, and you're responsible for it. Those are your realms. So when you're operating in one of your own realms, you are in charge and you are the final decider of what happens. And it is part of your job to listen to other people, especially those who are in your realm. Listen to your family members, listen to your employees. Of course, it's not that you just go off by yourself and make decisions. Your job as queen is to take in, she's the receiver, take in all the information and then be the final decider of what happens. I forgot to say, your car is your realm also, like your second home.
Yeah.
So if you're out and about and you're carrying out your errands, maybe you're shopping, maybe you're going to the bank, maybe you're visiting a friend at her house, or maybe you're at work and you're going into your boss's office, you are now entering a place where another woman, might be a man, but we'll stick with women for now. Another woman is 100% responsible for that space. That's her realm. If I was Queen of France and I went to visit Queen Elizabeth in England, I would be very respectful of Queen Elizabeth. So be respectful. When you're in your realm, you don't want anybody overstepping and taking over. I remember once a long time ago, my mom came into my house and she just started rearranging some of my furniture. She got confused, and that's easy for mothers to do because she birthed me. And even though I was 40 years old by this time, it's easy for a mother to forget that she's not the queen in your house. It's easy for a mother to think that she's kind of the queen everywhere in her daughter's life, even her adult daughter. But no, mothers must be very respectful. In my house, I had to teach my mother that I was queen of that space, and she was not free to act like the queen in my space. And these boundaries, because a lot of times mothers will create a lot of drama in their adult daughters with children, that sort of thing. Let's say your big sister is coming to visit and she starts automatically correcting your children. No, you are the queen of your home and your children. Your big sister must be respectful and remember that you are queen of your home, not her. And you must correct people in a graceful and diplomatic way and firmly, and explain it to them. And that's what the Queen Teachings does, is gives you some ways to think about that and good little phrases and statements. So let's say you're out and about. Remember to treat other women in their own realm like they are the queen, because it completely changes the whole dynamic into something wonderful between women. So say you're in the checkout line, maybe at the grocery store. Think about that area where the cashier is, the cash register, the place where the cashier is standing, the conveyor belt, the credit card machine, even the box person. That's all the cashier's realm. She is queen of that space that you have entered in that moment. The question is, will you treat her like the queen she is? Will you be respectful? Will you greet her respectfully? Will you ask her for what you need, not demand it? She's not your servant. She is queen of that realm of hers. So don't be ignoring her. Don't be on your phone as if she's not even there, as if she doesn't even matter. Treat her like a queen. And when you do, when you put out that vibe, she may not know exactly what you're doing, but it completely changes the interaction and it will completely make her day.
I absolutely love that, Ava. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of that term, namaste, the light in me honors the light in you. But this is like the queen in me honors the queen in you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I might use
so
that.
Beautiful?
Can I use
please
that?
Do. Yes,
That's
please
good.
do.
That's pretty good.
Me honors the queen in you, and you're treating every living woman on earth that way.
Right. Because she's queen of some realm,
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That's so powerful. It's beautiful. Yay. I love that. How can women access these teachings that we're talking about?
Very good. Thank you. We treat this as a very special thing that is shared with women. This is not something that we want to mass market. And so usually our students come by word of mouth. They usually come by some special route. The information is on our website, how to sign up. But if you just send us an email, tell us who you are, what your situation is, why you're interested, then we will send you back all the information that you need. So just email us. You can put our email up on the screen. And I would love to give your listeners a special gift if that's okay.
Oh, please. Thank you.
I'd like to offer your listeners a significant discount as our gift to your listeners through you. The Queen teachings are $400 for the set of videos. For your listeners, we would like to make it available within the next 2 weeks for just $200. So contact us by email and let us know that you heard about the Queen teachings through Melissa, and then we will send you the information that you need.
Yay. Thank you, Ava. I love that. Yeah, I'll make sure to include that to let them know to watch the video because there's something special in it. Thank you. I heard that you are writing a book. Is that true?
That is true. It's
Okay.
90% done.
Okay.
So hold a good thought for me. This might be the year it gets published, maybe next year. It is an expanded version of the Queen teachings. So if you sign up for the Queen teachings, you get the basics. You get the basics on many different topics, on the Queen as communicator, the Queen as leader, beauty and health. And
even money. That was really Queen and money. I mean,
right. Yes. The Queen is the keeper of the storehouse. The book is a more expanded version of the Queen teachings. The Queen teachings are the basics, and the book is more expanded, goes into greater detail.
Beautiful. I love that. Congratulations. And is there anything else you'd like to share about Queen teachings that we haven't talked about yet?
The mother protects the individual, the Queen protects the group. Think of a woman in a little hut with her child on her hip, and she's out cooking over a fire and a tiger approaches. The mother archetype in you protects that child and drives the tiger off. But the Queen is the archetype in you that sees to systems. What is the system that could be put in place that would protect the mother so she could relax and do her cooking and her childcare in peace? The Queen is the one who gets the city walls built so that all the mothers are safe. The Queen sees to the protection of the group. And most women do not have systems in place in their lives that protect them in this way. Most women I know, especially women who are married, especially women from my generation, somehow expect their husband to perform that task. They expect their husbands to put in place the protections to keep the woman safe. But all too often, I counsel women whose husband divorces them at 50 and they end up with nothing, or their husband dies at 60 or 70 and they find that their lives are now thrown into complete disarray. Mm-hmm. So we have to work with our husbands and partners if we have one, certainly. But the woman with a strong Queen will pay attention to what the systems are in her life that protect her, that keep her stable, keep a roof over her head and food on the table. She does not abdicate that job.
Thank you, Ava. Absolutely. I wanted to maybe share that what inspired me personally, the realm. I'm a big declutterer. I love to declutter, and I've been waiting. I've been with my husband in relationship for 8 years, married for 3. We moved into a second house, and he has never decluttered his clothes. And it's always someday, because he is very busy, someday. And as I read your chapter, I'm in charge of his clothes and everything in the house. It gave me the courage to finally address it and say, it's my responsibility. And I worked with him and we got it done. So thank you for that.
How wonderful. Was it hard to convince him of the belief that it is your responsibility? Were you able to communicate that to him?
I was able to communicate it. He's a big jokester. He likes to joke about everything, but you also have a chapter on communication. So I met him halfway because I already knew what he was going to say. He's always like, tomorrow. It's overwhelming for him. So I said, how could I make it easier for you? What if I brought it out here and just put the piles, like let's start with 4 piles, and you can let me know what you'd like to keep and what we can declutter. And then he took a moment and he said, okay. So I got that from Queen Teachings.
And it's so important, the state of your home, because your home is supposed to be your sanctuary. It's supposed to be the place that nourishes and nurtures you. And if you go home and your home is not in a state that does nurture you, if it creates tension in you, if it doesn't feel like a place where you can relax, then that's a big stressor in a woman's life.
Oh, absolutely. So now he knows how to support me because I love having a clean home. Sometimes I can do the cleaning myself. Sometimes I do need help. So we hire cleaners and I ask him, listen, I'm not feeling, I can't do it. So he's okay, let's do it. Right. So yeah.
He sounds like a good man.
He is a good man. So how can people reach you personally, Ava? I know you're on social media, you're on Instagram, you are on Facebook. I love the line that says friend Ava on Facebook for her frequent, incisive, sometimes shocking commentary on life in patriarchy. It's like, yes, we need more of that.
Probably the best way to reach me is by email, ava@museumofwoman.us. Yeah, that's probably the best way.
And I will include.
In a big hurry, if it's a big emergency, you can text me. I do pay attention to my texts and my emails.
Beautiful. So I will include your website and your social media on this video.
Very good.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for your Queen Teachings, and may the Queen in you empower all the queens in our world, and may she be inserted in the traditional 3 model of women.
Let us all walk in the world as the queens we are. Blessed be. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Ava.
You are the